In what was known as the Golden Age of Discoveries, the Portuguese set forth into the world and amassed what would be one of the largest empires in history. Good and bad, Portugal's empire resonated then as it resonates to this day. I'm Jake, the Voice Par, and these are 10 of the most interesting facts about Portugal and its empire. It is incredible to imagine that a country as small as Portugal once had a huge empire. But just look at the map of Portugal and it looks like the face of a person looking out to the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. No wonder this was a nation of world-class navigators, mariners, and explorers. The Portuguese Empire lasted for 600 years, longer than any other European country, and at its height included territory that today comprises part of 53 nations. Colonization may have been brutal and is a relic of the past, but its discoveries are an integral part of what makes Portugal unique. Thus opens our countdown at number 10. For number 9, it is worth noting that what is known as Europe's Age of Discovery began with the Portuguese. Many European nations, including Spain, Italy, England, France, and others, have explored the Mediterranean and parts of the North Atlantic, but always very close to the coast. It was the Portuguese who threw caution into the wind and ventured out into the vast and unknown Atlantic Ocean. That is how Portugal was able to claim the uninhabited Madeira Islands in 1419 and Azores Archipelago in 1427 as its own, both of which remain part of its territory to this day. The Portuguese were indeed the earliest adventurers of all. One cannot speak of Portugal's Age of Discovery without being in awe of the great navigators and explorers. At number 8, these include the likes of Henry the Navigator, who oversaw expeditions to the New World and Japan, Bartholomew Dias, who in 1488 became the first person to sail around Africa's Cape of Good Hope, Pedro Alvares Cabral, who is credited with discovering Brazil in 1500, Ferdinand Magellan, who led what would become in 1519 the first circumnavigation of the world, and the brothers Gaspar and Miguel Cortereal, who explored Greenland and Newfoundland between 1500 and 1503, to name but a few. At number 7, we must pay homage to what was one of not only Portugal's greatest achievements in exploration, but of any European power. Ferdinand Magellan, Fernão de Magallanes, to be exact, set off in 1519 in a quest to find an easier route to the east. By going west, he inadvertently took his crew into the enormity of the Pacific Ocean. Although Magellan was killed by locals in a skirmish in the Philippines, a few of his crew did arrive back in Europe in 1521 to realize that they had successfully circumnavigated the planet, and so another first was added to the Portuguese Age of Discovery. At number 6, we must look to India. For centuries, Europeans have been at the mercy of Eastern traders since there was no direct route to India, hence the prohibitive cost of items such as silk, salt, and spices. The Portuguese first changed that with Henry the Navigator, and then sealed it when Vasco da Gama set off in 1497 and found a direct route to India by going around the treacherous southern tip of Africa. The Portuguese thus seized total control of the spice and silk trade, and their empire grew from there. At number 5, we ask a simple question. What European country was the first to reach Australia? If you think it was Britain with Captain Cook in 1770, or even the Dutch before that, you'd be wrong. It's believed to have actually been the Portuguese. Maritime maps dating back to the 1500s strongly suggest that Portuguese navigator Cristóvão de Mendonça sailed into Botany Bay in 1522. That is 248 years before Captain Cook did, and a full 8 decades before even the Dutch sighted the land known as Australia. The theory has been positioned since 1786 and is supported by some of today's eminent historians. At number 4, we chart, if you pardon the pun, the enormous contribution made by the Portuguese to maps and map-making. Portuguese explorers created the world's first nautical maps, which delineated not only the geography of the lands discovered, but also the sea routes and ocean currents en route. Portuguese cartographers were the most renowned for centuries. The Portuguese invented 4 different types of ships and also invented the Mariner's astrolabe, which determined the latitude of a ship, as well as the Cantino plantosphere, which depicts places according to astronomical calculations. With an empire once so large, it shouldn't be surprising that Portuguese is spoken by 236 million people in 5 different countries. It is the official language of 8 countries, namely Angola, Brazil, Cape Verde, Guinea-Bissau, Mozambique, São Tomé e Príncipe, East Timor, or Timor-Leste as it is officially known, and Portugal, of course. It is also spoken in Goa in India and Macau in China, given that both were former Portuguese colonies. In fact, only Mandarin, English, Spanish, Hindi are spoken by more people, making Portuguese the 6th most spoken language in the world. And our number 3. Number 2 just shows how much Portuguese culture has influenced the world. Take cuisine, for example. You think tempura was invented in Japan? Think again. It was Portuguese traders at Nagasaki who introduced tempura to the Japanese. Tempura was a traditional Portuguese dish made during Catholic fasting. Chili, pepper, potatoes, and tomatoes were all introduced by the Portuguese to India and Sri Lanka. Imagine the cuisine of those countries without those ingredients. Oh, and it was also the Portuguese who introduced tea culture to the English, thanks to Portugal's trade routes to China. I say, old chap! Our number 1 has Portuguese discoverers sailing the world's oceans and priests in the wake. So little wonder that Portuguese place names are found across the globe. Take Lagos, Nigeria's largest city, as an example. It means lakes in Portuguese, due to the many lagoons in the coastal city. The province of Natal in South Africa means Christmas, since it was first sighted on Christmas Day in 1497 by Vasco da Gama. The Portuguese named Colombo the largest city and commercial capital of Sri Lanka, and no less than 48 Japanese words originated from Portuguese, including those for glass, cake, jug, and brother. Those then are 10 of the most interesting facts about Portugal and its empire. For more top lists just like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to check out our other top lists. Thank you very much for watching, and thanks for learning.